Hi, I'm Venus from Heart's Desire by Venus, and I am here to show you my design team project that I'm working on for Line Dot Arrow for the month of June. Previous videos, I made an ephemera holders. Actually, I made 2 ephemera holders. And so for this month's design team project, I am making ephemera to fill those ephemera folders. So I am using Line Dot Arrow's Grunge Collage sheets. So these are just a few that I'm showing you here. These are perfect for the ephemera that we're going to make. You can still layer on top of these, but I like these for a base. It takes a lot of thought out of doing all the layering and just letting you get to the fun parts. So those are what I am using this time around. I'll put the links below. So for my first one, I am going to take this. I was in the recycle bin again. Yep, I did it again. I liked this because it has this funny shaped acetate window there. Not that I buy my spaghetti because of that. Okay, maybe I did this time around. But what I wanted was to figure out how to use that because I have a bunch of these. So what I did is I made tags out of the spaghetti box. And you can see here it's got your acetate window in there. But I thought I really wanted to try and make something out of those boxes because I had a bunch in my recycle bin. So that's what I'm going to show you to do today. So what I did is I took my spaghetti box and we're just going to open it up. Completely open it up, make it flat. Just pulling at the natural seam there. And that's what we've got. So for my large tags here, I made it, move that out of the way for a minute. I made them so they opened up. So what I did is this is the size of a tag that I wanted to make. And I want that window to be kind of, let me fold this out flatter. I want that window to be kind of in the middle of my tag so you can see it and see what's behind it. So I'm just going to lay out my tag here, and I'm just going to trace around. I mean, you could use a die cut you've got to do this. You could hand draw it out. I just happen to have the size of one that I wanted, so I'm just going to trace around it. And so you can see I've got the one side, and then what I did is I just traced around it a second time side by side, so that I know where the fold is going to be on there. And so now I'm just going to cut this out and then I will be back on screen. Hold on for a sec. Okay, so I'm back. So you can see I cut out my tag and I scored down the middle. So that is what I've got. So now what I'm going to do is I want to put a base on this. So I have got a piece of sheet music. You could use book paper, scrapbook paper, whatever you want. Although I'm going to put mine that way. And all I did, find my glue stick. I used my glue stick and I rounded everywhere, but not on the acetate window. I did do that the first time, so don't do that. It makes a mess. And I'm just going to do this because I'm also going to stitch on it later. So the glue stick will work for this. And all I did is I also lined up the middle of the book page to the middle of my tag, so it had a natural fold, so I didn't have to score again. Oops, picked that up. And you're just going to burnish it all on. And then what I did, because I didn't want it to look like super straight, I took my, I don't know what it is, my wonky ruler there, and I basically just laid it out just a little bigger than the tag. And I ripped so that my tag edges will be a little bit there. Well, that one's a little off, but that's all right. And so I'm going to do that on all sides. And then you can use those pieces for other things, for sure. More tags or making little collage parts for your pages. So I'm just going to do that all the way around. And then I'm just going to do it on the corner pieces. If you can get your fingers in there. On the corners. All right. And then I fold it, and you can feel where it is there. And I just did the same thing on the middle corners. So when you take it off, it kind of looks like that. If you find it's enough, you know, I just kind of ripped off. There's a couple of pieces that are a little longer than others. I just trim them up. No big deal. And that's my base. Now you're thinking, well, I just covered the acetate window up. So what I did, because I'm not very good at figuring out how to cut that all out, all I did is I've glued that on there, and I just feel where the window is. And I took my pencil here, and not a sharp one, and I just pressed hard on the paper and went around a few times, and you can see it's actually, and it's not a super sharp pencil, it's more of a duller one, but you could do it with anything kind of dull and sharp. And you can see once you trace around a few times, it took it off and it left it a little jagged in there, which I kind of liked, because then it looks like I tore it inside, even though I didn't really. So then I'm going to do the same thing to the back side, and then I will be back. Okay, so I did the paper to both sides, cut out the window, and then I went ahead and I inked the edges and the window both sides. That was the hard part. After that, what I've done is I've just layered pieces of the collage strips onto the front of these cards, or these tags, sorry. So, and if you're like me, I got lots of little pieces kicking around from the project that I just finished. So I'm just going to take a few of these, and I'm just going to figure out where to put them on my piece here. So I'm going to sorry about that. Inevitably, somebody phones while I'm doing one of these videos. Anyways, so I am just taking pieces of the collage paper. Like I said, her collages really are nice to add to these kinds of things, because then it's really a no-brainer. So I'm just cutting them up, and I'm adding, I've inked around them, and I'm just gluing them on, because again, remember, we are going to sew around these tags afterwards. So you don't really have to worry too much about it. This will hold till it gets on, and then we can stitch around it. So I've got little pieces of like a doily here that I'm just going to add to the top as well. Just going to layer those on. Brush that a little bit with more distressing ink. And I'm just going to put a few strips on the inside. And it's really whatever you've got on your desk works just fine for this. You could also just cut the whole tag out of her collage sheets, which that would work as well. But I kind of like going for that layered look. So I'm just going to distress these up and actually you got to remember to glue on the inside as well. And she's also got some interesting shapes on some of her collage kits, so I've cut some of them out. On the one you saw, I cut out the word bingo, and this one I cut out the gentleman on the page, but you can see you could cut out one of the deer, the squirrels, the owls, the stamps here, all kinds of things. More of those prints. So I'm just going to continue with a little bit of these. So I also have a die cut. It's kind of hard to see, but it's used, I cut it, it's a Tim Holtz die, and I used some avocado dyed paper. And I'm just going to brush the edges with this, and I'm going to just tear that in half, and I'm going to place that on here as well. I think I'm going to do one in the back side here. Use my glue stick. Finish that on. And I think I'm going to layer it over top of, oops, that's not my glue stick. On top of this, so it kind of peeks, the window peeks out from underneath it. Okay, and then I like to add a stencil. This is a Prima stencil here, and I'm just going to lay it out on my full thing, and I'm just going to work a few bits of my distressing ink in here, in just a few spots to give it a little extra depth. And that'll be like right even over top of, you can see, right over top of everything. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so there's just a few of those showing up. And then for the last little bits, I always have little bits of fibers on my desk here. So I'm just going to take a few of these fibers and I'm just going to layer them on. I'm just going to temporarily glue them because I am going to go over them again. Like I said, I'm going to stitch over, but I'm just going to add a few pieces here and there of some fibers. This is just some factory cotton. And I'm just going to add on, and I have a couple of bits of ribbons here and trace laces. I'm just going to add like one down here. This one I definitely have to make sure I catch it really well with the sewing machine. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go off screen and I'm going to stitch this all around, and I will be back to show you what I've done. Alright, so I'm back. So I stitched all the way around. Then I just did a little bit of stitching, you know, decorative stitching in here. I also took my crocodile, put the holes in the top, and I colored some reinforcements with my distressing ink and placed them on the holes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this band here. And I liked it because it went through both sides. And what I do is I took my craft blade, and I just want the bow, the ribbon to come in about here. So basically I took my craft blade and right in the fold there, I just sliced about a 1/2 inch slit through the whole tag there. Big enough for me to get the ribbon in and so it could lay flat. What I've done is I just took some ribbon I had, I sprayed it with a little bit of Glimmer Mist pink, a little bit of Glimmer Mist coffee dyed color, and I'm just going to thread it through that hole. And if you have a problem like I do sometimes, basically just take my blade and feed it through the hole so that it comes out the other side. And then I'm just going to make sure I've got enough of it through so that I can bring it up here so that I can tie a bow. And I'm just going to tie a bow. Now I find, in order to make my bow look pretty, I actually do it upside down, because then my tails end up exactly where I want them. So I just flip it around and then I make my bows like I normally do. There. And now you can see when I flip it back that my tails are going in the directions that I want. I'm just going to trim the tails here. I'm still holding it in place a little bit, because what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to take some of my Beacon's glue here, and I'm just going to put a dab underneath the knot, and I'm just going to position my bow exactly how I want it to be, and I'm just going to press it into that glue dab, and I'm just going to let it sit there for a minute. Ooh, put the cap back on my glue, it's running. Let it sit for a second so that it will stay exactly where I put it. There, and it doesn't take very long, and it will slightly curl, and that's all right. I do want a little bit of a curl there, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a dangle on there. So I just, if you got a hole punch, I just cut a circle out of one of the papers, again, collage papers. Just going to ink both sides. And And I have, oh, these are some old stamps that I have from, let's see, they're Stampin' Up. And I've just got some numbers. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just dab a number in the middle of this circle. There we go. So it looks like a stamp. I'm going to get myself an eyelet here. And my crocodile. And I'm just going to cut a hole. Put my eyelet in. There, set my eyelet. So now I've got a little hangy tag. I've got these pins. They're called garment pins. I like them for doing this stuff because, as you can see, they've got a little curve on the bottom, little safety pin with a curve, so that it will hold your item in there. So basically, I'm just going to thread it on there, and then I'm going to take my pin and I'm just going to go through the middle of my bow. Come on. Hook it through there. And that's also going through the glue a bit. So you can see now that's in place. So the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ribbon. So I have some more of that same ribbon. I'm just going to cut the angles a little bit on the ends. Same on the other side. And I'm just going to cut this piece into two. And I'm just going to do ribbon on both of the tops. Thread it through. And then I have a little